So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock. Conceptual subculture for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to Etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, organite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy.
Warning, warning, everything I say is fucking crazy and should not be reinterpreted or reenacted because you will be either shot or NDAA'd. Warning.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special broadcast of the Bruce Montalvo Show. It is August 12th, 2017, and joining me is a man that literally needs no introduction. He is a preeminent researcher in the field of esoteric studies for over 50 years. This man is an absolute legend. My good friend, Jordan Maxwell. Hello, Jordan.
Hello there, Bruce.
It's great to have you on.
You again.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on, Jordan. I'm just so blessed to have you on. You're, like, as you know, you're one of my favorite people to talk to on planet Earth.
Well, thank you.
I think it's a planet.
Yeah, and I think I'm people. Yeah.
Right. No, you're great people. You're absolute great dude. And I tell you what's even greater. I mean, your research society. I joined it the other day. I've been up for hours researching endless material on your website. What a gift to humanity that website is.
Well, thank you. And keep in mind that it's fairly new. I have about probably a full terabyte more getting ready to go on as soon as I can. As soon as my webmaster, gets to it. I mean, he only has so many hours in a day, and he has his own life to live, and so I've got about a terabyte which is 1,000 gigs
Right.
of documents and pictures and all kinds of extraordinary exposing all types of criminality, lunacy, and but we just put a little bit on every day or every other day as soon as we can. And so just keep in mind what's there now is a lot, but boy, there's a lot more coming.
Absolutely. No, it's just a plethora of information. I mean, esoteric information. I mean, just so much to look through. I mean, it's amazing. And, you know, they teach us lies. I mean, whether you're old or young, they just teach us falsehoods, right? Like Plato said, right? They dare call us fools and lunatics for knowing the truth.
Yeah, and that's what Plato said how many thousands of years ago. So the more we change, the more we stay the same.
Right.
We're still the same dying flesh on the earth that are born, raised, and die and never knew what the real truth was about anything.
Right.
About the history of the earth, the history of the human being, or the history of the man and mankind. We're not told anything. We've never been told anything of any importance. The people who run this planet do not intend to have you get in their way. And the way you do that is think too much. And so they don't give you much to think about, and therefore the only thing left to the young people of the world today is what they're doing. They're just on drugs and basketball and sex and music and entertainment and TV and all the other attractions for young minds. Why? Because they're not being given anything of any intellectual value, period. Nowhere, period. End of sentence. Nothing out there on the media of television and entertainment, educational systems has anything of any intrinsic value for a human intelligence and our human mind. So, like all children, when they're babies, they lay in the crib, and you give them little sparkling things that make sounds, and and entertain them because they're little small minds, and so they're very entertained by little toys or little wind-up toys, or put a little ball or something in the crib, and that entertains them. Well, that's why today, the human race is in a crib.
Right.
And that's all we're given is just a ball: basketball, pinball, kicker ball, soccer ball, golf ball, tennis ball, football.
Globes.
Almost every sport we have in the whole world is based on a ball.
Right.
Period. So what does that tell you about who we are as humans and men, women, and children, and where are we going? Well, we don't even know where we've been, much less where we are. And so how the hell are you going to know where you're going?
Exactly.
It's the human race has been lied to, deceived, cheated, manipulated, exploited. My God, it's an incredible story. However, look at the way the world is now finally going. It's because there's a general overall awakening that you can't stop. It's cosmic. And people are beginning to realize and wake up to the fact that nothing they know is true. Nothing they think or factual was not. Science is not your savior, never has been. Science today, generally speaking around the world, science today is a religion. It has its holy prophets and its holy books, and then you can go to college and get a degree, and then you can call yourself a scientist, as long as you know what to kiss and when.
That's right.
And so that's the way you keep your job as a scientist. You work for the government, and the government is owned and controlled by the military-industrial complexes of the world. And so as long as you go along to get along and do what you're told to do, we'll pat you on the back and call you a scientist, and you can you can make a living and stay alive.
Oh yeah, I mean you could be Bill Nye the Science Guy, and now you're a scientist, or
That's right.
Or Oprah. Oprah can make Dr. Phil, a TV doctor, a scientist. I mean, they decide what phony baloney dude is a scientist nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. So the bottom line is that the human family on the earth, I don't care what race, creed, color, or country, it doesn't matter. The entire complex of what we call humanity is, in a terrible situation. And the reason why is because thousands and thousands of years ago, we were misled, and then, like any other plant on the earth, this is the way the tree has grown.
Right.
We were twisted to start with 10,000 years ago, and 7,000 years ago we were bullshitted and given religions and all kinds of philosophies and ideas, and eventually today we finally come to a world with 7.5 billion people that are relying on and believing the same stuff we believed 7,000 years ago, when we were killing each other, and today we're still killing each other and believing the same things. And
that's right.
So I don't know I don't know where to go with it all. I know where it's going, but I don't want to go there.
Well, right. No, and Jordan, they get us to call each other animals. I mean, race is a term that is used for animals, right? It goes back to Roman common law.
Well, of course it does, of course. And and when you are out as a hunter, if you're going out to kill animals, like a big game hunter in Africa, or if you're going out to kill animals here in the States, wherever you go, you always have to get permission and get a license from somebody we call a game warden.
That's right.
And the reason why it's a game warden, because it's a game we're playing. We've always played it. The strong and mighty kill the weak and eat them and live off of them. And today in the human society, what we call the strong and mighty are the intellectual superiors who can eat up and manipulate, exploit, and ultimately eat up the human race. We send them off to wars. We give them worthless jobs. We teach them zero, nothing. We tell them lies. Until today, finally, we arrive in a world today, in 2017, we're now finally in a world which is totally corrupt beyond all understanding.
Yes.
And wars are going on 24/7 around the world. Religions are hating and killing each other. And mankind has turned against itself, so that your closest enemy is the guy across the street. And so all of this is being orchestrated, of course, by superior minds.
Yes.
If you'll recall, in the movies, in the James Bond movies years ago, the guy who was the real villain, the top of the heap, Mr. Big, he was always petting his cat, and he would drop a goldfish into a piranha, into a bowl with a piranha in it, just to watch the piranha kill the goldfish. And so that's what we're doing today. Our leaders, our national leaders, and the United Nations, and governmental leaders all over the world, they're just dropping in a few goldfish here and there and watch the piranhas eat them up. And it's just a game. That's why you have to get a license from a game warden. It's an extraordinary story once you wake up. And once you actually wake up, and the biggest problem we have in America is intellectual honesty.
Yes.
That's the problem we have in this country today, is intellectual honesty. Because first of all, we don't have much of an intellect to start with. And what little bit of an intellect we've got is not honest. So that you can show someone the real truth and show them a picture of it, and nobody's going to believe it anyway, and nobody cares.
They call you a lunatic. They call you a fool, and you're so right. You're so right about this pseudoscience that's being pushed out there. Now, Jordan, I started this show as a truth seeker. I mean, just like you were part of Truth Seeker magazine, so you know exactly what Truth Seeker means. You're the epitome of it. So,
yes, but the symbolic terminology of Truth Seeker was given to the planet Saturn.
Yeah.
And Saturn was referred to in certain texts as the Truth Seeker. Why? Because Saturn was the bedrock of the bottom line bedrock, and he was called the immovable one because Saturn was always where it is. It's always there, and it'll always be there. And the ancient people knew that, so they called him the bedrock. He doesn't move.
That's right.
And so he's the truth seeker. It doesn't matter what you're talking or what you're saying. The Saturnian idea is the truth, period, whether you like it or not.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the fraternity of Saturn. I mean, this German brotherhood of Saturn. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you read my mind. I mean, this consciousness. I mean, that's what Saturn is. It's a consciousness. They tell us it's a planet, right? But I've been doing so much research now, and I'm looking at everything they show us is a lie. That's why you say that the people are so stupid. They are, because they're buying this. Whatever NASA...
They're buying into something they have no idea where it came from, and they really don't care.
Whatever NASA gives them, they buy it. It's all this CGI photos. And I truly believe NASA is a consciousness. It looks like a ball of gas. It's not this. It looks like an eye, like the Illuminati eye. Mm-hmm. It's a giant glowing eye. I mean, I don't see any planet. I've looked at Saturn, Jordan, with amateur astronomers in New York. I mean, I was hanging out with them, and we were checking out Saturn, and it looks nothing like NASA tells me.
Nope, and it's and at a correct angle, it looks like an eye because it's a round circle inside of an eyelid.
Yes.
And so the ancient peoples, tens of thousands of years ago, tell us that Saturn was much closer to the Earth. That's another thing that needs to be explained, is that the way the solar system today is set up, the different planets and where they are and how far they are from each other and everything else is an electrical balance. It's a electrical-magnetic balance. But if you go back into ancient history and really study the subject of electro balance in the universe, you will find that tens of thousands of years ago, the planets that we have today were not where they are today. The planets where they are today is a fairly new idea, because the planets were in different positions tens of thousands of years ago. Saturn was much, much closer to the Earth. And when you look into the ancient artifacts and paintings of the prehistoric and ancient peoples, they will picture Saturn as enormous in the sky. And you have to ask yourself, how could people, say, 7,000 or 10,000 years ago, be painting on walls or be painting or drawing pictures of a planet with rings around it, and it's enormous in size in relation to everything else in the picture.
Absolutely, so like in that image.
Telling you that the planet Saturn was very close to us at one time.
Oh, Jordan, the image of Nefertiti in Egypt.
That's right.
When they're sitting there with the baby, I mean, the sun is like right above their heads. It's super close.
That's exactly right.
And it was referred to as the old sun.
Yep, and that's why the ancient and prehistoric peoples of the Middle East considered Saturn to be a god, because it reflected light from the sun. And so when something is big, like taking up 1/3 or 1/4 of the sky at night, and if it's that size, to take up 1/4 of the whole sky with rings around it, and it's reflecting the light of the sun. Well, the moon is reflecting the light of the sun. You see how bright it is.
Yes.
Well, think about Saturn, and if it was much, much closer and took up 1/4 to 1/3 of our sky as reflecting the sun, it would be a sun itself.
It's amazing.
And so Saturn became connected to sun worship in the prehistoric, ancient times.
Yes.
And then from there, Saturn became a god who enlightens the earth, and it was the god of the nighttime.
Well, the father of Zeus.
That's right.
Kronos.
And you just go on like that, you will begin to see that our religions and our philosophies and our military ideologies are all based on the ancient god Zeus.
Yes.
And we have a canal in the Middle East called the Suez Canal, which is Zeus spelled backwards, is Suez. And you begin to see that the wars in the Middle East are all based on Jupiter, a Jew, Peter, and then Pater goes back to Peter. And in the Catholic Church, you have the Apostle Peter, which is not Peter, it's
Saturn
Peter.
worship.
And, when you start breaking down religions and philosophies and ideas and the etymology of words and terms and the histories of religions and philosophies of the ancient world, it all becomes very apparent that we today are as ignorant as the human creature has ever been.
Absolutely.
We're still buying into the same old nonsense we've always bought into. And our leaders, who are supposedly our leaders, are just misleaders. They know that you're ignorant. They understand that you don't know what's going on, and they're intending to make sure you stay that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
they
that's
keep
what
us.
We are today.
They keep us dumb, ignorant. I mean, they want us to call Saturn a planet when, in the holographic sense, it might be a planet, but in reality, it's a consciousness. It's a deity.
Well, of course it is, and that's why it affects you and it affects me. And the moon affects women. It affects the waters of the earth. The moon pulls the tides of the earth. Well, anything that is strong enough to pull the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean is very strong. And and so that's why on the new moon we have on the full moon we have people who flip out and do crazy things.
Right.
And we used to refer to them as lunatics because of the lunar effect on their blood, on their blood and on the human being. Why? Because humans are almost 70% water, and so is the ocean is pure water. Well, if the moon can pull the Pacific Ocean, what can it do to you? You're 70% water too.
Oh,
and
man.
So your brain is being affected by the atmospheric pressures and the gravitational field of the moon and the sun. I mean, it's an extraordinary story of who we are as humans and how much we just don't know.
Absolutely, and it's mind-boggling. I mean, where do we start? I mean, you have a plethora of information. And I want you to let our listening audience know where they can find it. They find you at the Research Society, your Research Society. I mean, I want them to be a part of it too. I want them to know the truth, Jordan.
Well, there's the old scriptural biblical statement to know the truth and it will set you free.
That's right.
Well, you will not experience that and understand that until you have, for the first time, experienced the truth. Because you are always concerned about, if you're very religious, you're concerned about what you're doing, and if God will, still love you if you do this, or will God do this to you, or God will do that to you. And what's going to happen to you if you're going to have bad luck if you start doing this or that because God does not want you doing that. And then one day you find out that God is simply the word dog spelled backwards. and then you begin to understand where the idea of a deity and gods have come from, and start breaking down the etymology of the words and the terms and the symbols and where these different religions have developed. And all of a sudden you begin to see the whole thing was a classroom teaching you how not to think, and teaching you to just do what you're told and be in compliance and shut up. And then when you see all of that for the first time as a human, it finally hits you. You've been had, you've been lied to, and the whole world is far, far different than anything you ever thought it was. And now there is, in point of fact, a feeling of freedom comes out all over you. You begin to really feel it. Know the truth, and it will set you free. Why? Because it's setting you free of your political BS. It's setting you free from your religious BS. It's setting you free from your social BS. And especially as it's setting you free from all of your ignorant, ill-informed, dim-witted, and backward friends and goofballs of people around you who are still ignorant.
Yes.
And trying to get you to believe what they believe. And they, misery loves company, so they want you to be like them. And when you decide, I don't want to be like them, I want to use my own mind and do my own thing, well, now you are a rebel. You are a revolutionary and a rebel because you think. And so that's the whole idea, is that the world we live in is a hive, like a beehive.
Yeah.
And everybody has a job to do, and the one thing everybody needs to remember, keep your mouth shut and don't ask questions, and just be what you're supposed to be, a dim-witted jerk. And just go to work and drink your beer and watch television and play with your skateboard. And when you're 60 years old, you're still out there trying to be a teenager and acting like you're somebody. And then one day, when you're 90 years old and you're sitting in an old folks' home, it finally dawns on you, all of the people that influenced you to believe and to act a certain way, all those people that were important to you, they're all dead and gone, and you are sitting there by yourself, and then it dawns on you, and finally occurs to you, you could have done something important. You could have been something of importance in this world. But because, like everybody else, you just went along with your friends, whatever your friends believed, that's what you believe. And whatever your friends were entertained by, that's what you wanted to do. And when your friends were going to the football game, you wanted to go too. And when they were having beer parties, you wanted to go drinking at the beer parties too. Why? Because you want to be loved and appreciated by your friends. Well, me, I don't need any friends.
That's right.
I don't need friends. I'm happy with the good friends I have, but all the good friends I have understand I'm not like everybody else. I do my own thinking. And the people I have around me are the same kind of people. Water seeks its own level. I don't like having goofballs around me, people who go along to get along and accept anything just because everybody else is doing it.
All right, they just grow old in front of the TV.
Yeah. I've just had enough of all of that stupidity.
And I'm a thinking mind, Jordan. I'm a thinker. And, I hear you say this expression, level, and water is level, and isn't it? I mean, isn't it just? It's completely level. So this idea of globe Earth sometimes it's so Fordian to me, and it's one of the biggest conspiracies that we're not allowed to talk about. But I know. But I go out to the beach.
Just the words. When you break down words, a word we're hearing all over the world today is global. Everything's global.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, break that word down. Glow, G-L-O. We know what something that glows. We know what it is. A classic example of something that will glow is the sun.
Yeah.
Well, in the ancient Phoenician and the ancient Phoenician language, going back into the ancient world of Sumeria, Babylonia, the Hittites, all the ancient cultures of the Middle East,
Yes.
the sun was referred to as Baal, B-A-L, Baal. And we could, and so the sun was a Baal, B-A-L. But it's spelled B-A-L-L, a Baal. But Baal is Baal, B-A-L. And B-A-L in the ancient languages of the world, in the Middle East, was the sun. And that's why they were called Baal worshippers. And in the land of Canaan, we've heard that in the Bible, the land of Canaan.
Yes.
Well, we have Baal worshippers of the sun, who would, like the Aztecs and the Mayas, they would cut open the chest of a sacrificial lamb, a sacrificial human. They cut their chest open and pull out the heart while the human is still alive, and then they hold the heart up like the Mayas and the Incas did, hold it up to Baal. And then after that, since the person is now dead, you could say that the sacrificial offering was to offer up your heart to God.
Yes.
Offer up your heart to the sun. And so today we have Christians saying that they have given their heart to God's Son, to Jesus, the Son of God, God's Son. And I think to myself, I just don't know where to go with all of this profound ignorance, ill-informed. It's just amazing to me how much we are doing the same things we've done for tens of thousands of years. And it doesn't seem to be like George Carlin says, nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. We just all go along to get along and enjoy the movie on TV and drink our beer and go to work and complain and bellyache about the system we live under. But there ain't nothing you're going to do about it. You don't understand it anyway. So just go in and drink your beer and take your shots in your arm and main line and die of drug overdose, whatever it is you're doing.
Just don't ask too many questions, because then they'll beat you over the head with that club that you're not a part of. Right? I'm a big fan of George.
George Carlin was funny. He was clever, but he was also right. He was also true, and that's what made him who he was. But I've always known. I started questioning things when I was a kid.
Yeah.
9 and 10 years old, I was asking questions that an adult would look at me like I was a retard, and they didn't understand what I was saying.
Why don't you tell my audience some of those questions you would ask, specifically about like the Catholic Church? I've heard you say this once, like, how is it that I could, my soul will burn?
If I'm going to tell it, I'll tell it.
Go ahead.
When I was like 8 or 9 years old, being raised in a Catholic family, when a kid reaches about the 8th or 9th year of life, he is referred to as being confirmed in church.
Yeah.
I think they have a confirmation service even in Judaism, where a child is officially recognized as a Catholic. If you're 9 years old, we bring you in before the tribunal, we bring you into the church, and we ask you, are you a Catholic? And you have to say, yes, I'm confirmed a Catholic, even at 9 years old, when you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
So anyway, there was a confirmation service, and so we were told in Catholic school at 8 and 9 years old, we were told that tomorrow night, the nuns would tell us that tomorrow night at the confirmation service, the bishop will be here, and he will be officiating over the service. And it's very important for you to remember that after the service is over, the bishop might possibly ask you, children, if you have any questions now that you are officially Catholics. He will try possibly to answer any questions you might have about your religion. And so we were told by the nuns that if that were to happen, just remember, you do not have any questions. You don't open your mouth. Whatever you're told, that's what it is, and you don't question it. And so the next night after the service was over, Bishop T.J. Tulin, I shall never forget him, a big fat cigarette smoking goofball, he officiated over the service. And after the service was over, he did say to the children in the church, the boys were sitting on one side of the church and the girls were sitting on the other side. And the bishop said, well, now that you children are confirmed Catholics, if there's any questions you might have, I'll try and answer them for you. And so I stood up, knowing that nobody's supposed to say anything. I stood up purposely to make damn sure everybody knew who I am. I want everybody to know I ain't buying into this.
Right.
And that was my thinking at the time. I mean, I used to put Alka-Seltz in the holy water. So, yeah, and so I stood up and I said to the bishop, I said, my father works in welding. I mean, he's always, he's a welder. And
yeah.
And and I said, if I had a welding torch and it was on and there was an angel standing next to me, could I hit the angel with a torch and would it hurt him? If I burned the angel, would it hurt him? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, well, I remember him saying something to the effect that fire is a natural phenomenon. Fire requires wood or paper or plastic or something to burn.
Right.
But you can't burn an angel. And I said, why can't I burn an angel? And he said, first of all, you can't even see an angel, so there's nothing there to burn to start with. You can't burn an angel because angels are spirits, and you can't burn a spirit. And so I said, well, then why am I concerned about going to hell where my spirit will burn forever if you can't burn a spirit? and all of the people in the church, I looked around, and all the people in the church looked like deers, with the headlights.
Yeah.
A deer in the headlights. They didn't know what I just said.
Wow.
It never occurred to them to ask such a stupid question.
That's
and
right.
so I was told by another Catholic priest who was a new priest to the church. He was from Ireland, very, very red-headed Irish priest. And he pointed at me and said, sit down and shut up. So I sat down, but I made my point. A 9-year-old asking questions that the whole church full of adults never even considered. And so at that point in my life, I pretty much had decided, I think I now know what's going on. I think I finally got it. I think that we are being misled into a religion, and the religion is nothing more than a way to control masses of people. Because if you're going to have a country like the U.S. or Russia or China, if you're going to have that many millions of people devoted to an idea of a country or a philosophy, then you better have control over them, what they think, what they watch, what they entertain themselves with, what they educate themselves about. You better have control over the millions and millions of people that you're going to control. And so we give them religions. Some people give them concentration camps and cut their heads off. That'll convince a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
But in America, we give them religions. And that takes care of it, because the religions will make sure that everybody stays ignorant. Because in America, we're all free, and that means we're all free. Everybody's free to be equal. There's nobody better than anybody else. We're all equal. Well, that's exactly what you get in a prison. All the prisoners in a prison are equal. There's no important prisoners and goofball prisoners. Yeah, everybody is equal.
Yeah, they all get to watch Jerry Springer at the same time, right? They're equal. They get to watch the football game.
Yeah, that's it.
Good behavior.
And so we all get to watch the football game, and we're all equal. We're all in jail. We're all in prison.
You said it.
And there is no, we are all referred to as the common man. And so even in England, the people who are considered to be the losers are referred to as commoners. They're the common people. And then you have the queen mum, and her mentally disordered, inbred family, the murderers and drug addicts and cross-dressing freaks. They are the royalty, while the regular people are just commoners. So you get in your gold chariot and ride around town with horsemen and guards and ride around and flip your cigarettes on the common people.
Oh yeah, the plebeians.
I'm just amazed how much the human race in thousands of years has not changed. We're still the same unwashed, ignorant, ill-informed, goofy, religious slaves the humans have always been.
Right, Jordan. You know, they call us the common people, right? And only they, the elite, they have children while we have baby goats.
That's it. They
Right.
call that we have kids.
Kids.
And the kids are baby goats. But in Israel, you don't have kids. You have children, like the children of Israel.
Yeah, that's right.
And
No.
the wealthy people like the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, we talk about their children.
But the elite can get away with murder, because they're they're principled, right? They have principles. Wow,
Yeah,
we don't have any of that, right? I mean, that's a special thing, that word principles, right? That they're entitled to.
Yep, and so and when you were in junior high and grade school, that the head of the school is a principal.
That's right.
And so it's words and terms, and the etymology of words and terms which are used in government, used in commerce, and life in general. Words are used to deceive. I mean, how do you construct a word? We say that you can construct a word by a spell.
That's right.
So you spell the word. Well, somebody is putting a spell on you.
It's magic.
And the spell implies some kind of hypnotism. And so you are living in a world of hypnotic spells when you are living in a world of words. You take an S and put it in front of the word, and it becomes a sword.
Wow.
And so the words are like swords. They can kill you. I mean, you can get killed by using the wrong words in the wrong place.
Hey, just do that in front of a judge. See how long you last.
Yeah, or confront a gang in downtown L.A. at 2 o'clock in the morning and use the right words and use the wrong words and see what happens to you.
Well, hopefully Trump got rid of a lot of those MS-13 in Echo Park. That's why I didn't go over there anymore.
Well,
you couldn't find a taco over there, Jordan. I couldn't find a taco in Echo Park anymore. It was like nothing but pupusas everywhere.
Well, I like what Obama did. Obama, he basically said he was going to take all that criminality off the street, which he did, and that was good. He took all that criminality off the street and brought it into the White House, and they worked for him.
I knew you were going there. I was just waiting.
It was just incredible. And the world I live in today, I'm almost 77 years old. I've been around the world many times. I've given lectures around the world. And I've been in every kind of situation that you can possibly imagine. I've given lectures to skinhead groups, to racist groups, to patriot groups, to foreign groups, to religious groups. I've spoke before all kinds of large numbers of people, and religious, non-religious, communists. And I realize that humans are just humans, and we're all bent on believing something. But the bottom line that we all have together is nobody is doing any thinking. And so when you get everybody believing something, that tells you nobody's thinking if everybody believes the same thing.
That's right.
And if you are the kind of person that gravitates to thinking and reading and studying and questioning, then you're not going to have too many friends in this world, and you're going to end up being broke, can't find a job, nobody wants anything to do with you, and then you're going to be in the same identical situation that other great intellectual minds who have done wonderful things for the human race and died a pauper, like Nikola Tesla and Royal Rife and the different scientists and philosophers of the ancient world who committed suicide or were put in prisons and died paupers. So people who do the thinking, which is very few anymore, they will go to prison. In America, you can go to prison for thinking. You think too much, and you start asking the wrong questions, and you will be arrested and find yourself in prison for good. And nobody gives a damn. Nobody's coming to help you, and that'll teach you to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, if you want justice, it's just you, just us.
Well, that's what that was a joke that used to be going around, that the judges would say, there is no justice, there's just us, so shut up. We'll call the shots, and you do whatever we tell you to do. And so when you talk about freedom, we talk about, we have a right to, we have the Statue of Liberty. It's liberty, not freedom. Liberty is what you get as a sailor when you're on a boat.
Yes.
And when you come into a harbor in the Navy, you park there, the ship, and you want to go across, you want to go off the ship and go out to a bar and have a few beers, you get liberty. You ask permission, and if the captain, who is God on a ship, people don't know that captains are considered to be deity when they are on their ship. An airline captain, a sailing a spaceship, it doesn't matter what kind of ship it is. The captain is considered deity. If you don't think so, mess with the captain while he's on his ship.
Have you walked the plank?
Yep. Exactly. He can put you to death because he is the captain. And under maritime law, captains are God, period. Whatever they say, that's what it is. And if they tell you to sit down and shut up and you don't, watch what's going to happen to you. And so when you understand that, and then you begin to understand that the earth is a ship, it's a vessel in space. And we're in the oceans of the world. We're in the oceans of the universe. And we're floating endlessly on the great oceans of the world, of the universe. And, we're all crew on a ship as we're going through space. And so the ships used to be called sailing vessels.
Yeah.
That's why you have a blood vessel, because it's the flow of fluid that keeps you alive. It's in a blood vessel. We could get into maritime admiralty law and religion and philosophies of where
the fans love it when you do.
Yeah, well, but most people are not interested in this kind of esoteric knowledge.
That's true.
It's very dry and doesn't make any sense, and they've never heard anything like this, so they're not really interested. They want to hear about Paris Hilton getting laid, or some movie star has decided that they want to be a man now.
That's right.
Or some man's becoming a woman, and everybody wants to talk about that.
Or they want to talk about how crazy Trump is and how wise Kim Jong-un is. Oh, yes. They're bad shit crazy.
Yeah, I know. So I look at the world I live in, and I just, as an old man, I just sit quietly and look at the world and think to myself, if the young people of this world, of America and of North America and Canada, if the young people, young teenagers and young kids going to college knew what I knew, it would be a horrible situation to deal with. It would be very, very bad situation, Because when the people wake up and en masse, that's when you have real trouble, real problems. It is when the regular, ordinary kid in the street begins to perceive something he's never heard before and begins to wake up to the real reality of the world he lives in. Then you will see the young people not venting their anger and their energy in football. Now they will begin to understand who the real enemy is. And it's the systems under which we live throughout the world. And like, Dick Gregory has said, the powers that be, we like to talk about ourselves as being free. We're not free at all. We've never been free.
Yeah.
You think you're free? Go out and start talking like I am and watch what happens to you the same way it's happened to me.
Absolutely, Jordan. Or like the great Bill Hicks once said, go out without any money and see how free you are.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
And go out and express yourself in a large audience of friends. Go to a big party or go to a big get-together and start talking about your belief system and showing how the system of government and how the system of religion and commerce and everything that we live under, and begin to tell the crowd, the large group of people, begin to show them intellectually how this criminality actually works and who the people who are running the government are known liars and criminals, and only the most worthless and evil rise to the top of any government.
Yeah.
Why? Because good people don't care about government. Good people just mind their own business and raise their family and want to be left alone and privacy and be left alone.
That's right.
But there are others who are psychotic criminals, and they can't wait to have control so they can rape and plunder and steal and do anything they want, and we refer to them as organized crime. Well, hell, that's what government is organized crime. Even the organized criminals are scared of the organized crime over them.
You betcha. Yeah.
So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, the people, and I've said this so many times, I'll say it again, the people in North America, both in America and Canada, as well as the people all over, even in the Western world, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and England, English-speaking world of the West, the people have no power to do anything. We're always told, well, if you want to change things, change it within the system. You don't want to fight the system. Just go and join the system and change the laws and change things in the system. But the problem is, it's the system that needs to be changed.
That's right.
And it's not what you think it is. The system is not what you think it is. And so, I mean, we could talk for days on this subject of what do these institutions that we have today that guides the destiny of a nation, the Federal Reserve, the universities and colleges, the banks and insurance companies. You drive into any city and who's got the biggest high-rises if it isn't the banks and insurance companies. And the insurance companies are the brains behind the banks. People don't know that. It's the insurance companies that make up the decisions that go on for world commerce and world government is basically in the hands of insurance.
Well, yeah, Goldman Sachs is like the devil, 666, companies like that.
That's what I'm talking about. And they control what goes on in the White House. And why do you call it a White House? How come it's not a brown house or a black house? It's a White House.
They got the Jesuits.
Break down the words. Find out, why do you go to court? You've heard me say it before. I'll say it again. When you're word deaf, you're word sick, you've got to go to court.
Yeah.
Well, why do you go to court? Because you play basketball on a court. You go to court because you play tennis on a court. And how do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket.
That's right.
Come on, wake up.
Hey, you
so
mentioned...
once you understand the whole idea of a court is a racket. And so that's why you have to go and play tennis on the court.
Absolutely.
And in the court, what happens in a court? Well, it's a game. And in all professional games, you always have an umpire. The guy who stands behind the catcher, and the guy who's making the pitch, the guy's making the pitch, and the guy who's accepting is the catcher.
You got it. No, and I'll tell you who the umpire is, Jordan. I didn't mean to cut you off, but the umpire is the Jesuits, and the White House was named after Jesuits. Right?
It's incredible. Yeah. The whole entire world is ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, and so very few people really want to know the truth. And that's the big problem. It's not that people's minds aren't capable of truth. It's that they don't want to know. And so there's a big difference. And I remember hearing it said many years ago. My dad used to say, never try and teach a pig to sing because it will waste your time and irritate the pig. Meaning, yeah. If pigs are interested in singing, they're not designed, if you look at the body and the way a pig is designed, they're not designed to look up. So pigs have never seen the sky, ever, because they don't have the ability to raise their head and look at the sky. And so don't try to teach them to sing. They're not interested in singing. They're interested in eating.
Oh, wow. And that's what the media has turned us as Americans. They've turned us into pigs. It reminds me of what Goebbels said. You give me control of the media, and I'll turn them into pigs.
Of course. And Ignatius Loyola, who blessed the world with the Jesuits, he said, give me a child till he is 7 years old. And after that, he's mine forever. Wow. Meaning, and between the day you're born to the day you're 7 years old, you will be taught everything you need to know. So that by the time you're 7 years old, you know who your parents are, and you know what you can and can't do, and you know what you better do when your father says something, and you better understand what the policemen are, and you better understand how the world works. Good enough to get you through at 7 years old. You already know what you can and can't do, and who to listen to. And so the Jesuits in the Catholic Church said, give me a child till he's 7 years old, and I've got him forever. I will fill him so full of bullshit, lies, deception, religion, screwball, stuff, and philosophy, that by the time he's 7 years old, he will not know he's even alive.
Unbelievable.
I'll decide what he will think for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And that's who the masters of Jerusalem really are. It is the Jesuits. They do have the Palestinians, and it's funny because you study the etymology of Palestinian, it's a Roman term. The Romans would call that land Palestine, but there is no Israel, like you've said. It's been historically it was Judea, right, Samaria, and so on. But that land is so coveted by the Vatican. You see the turmoil that's going on. The Middle East being at war. It's all perpetrated by these Jesuits who seek total dominion of this sacred navel of the earth that they call Israel.
But what about the fact that you see pictures of Netanyahu and the Jewish leaders, all the different administrative officials of Israel in the Vatican, kissing the Pope's ring and bowing down to the Holy Father, Father.
Yeah.
And he represents God, therefore he's a Godfather.
That's right.
Huh? Yeah. And so
Corleone.
The Jewish leaders are in there kissing the ring of the Godfather. And then the Arabic world, all the sheiks and all the Arabic leaders and Yasser Arafat and all the other Arabic leaders, they're also waiting in line as soon as Netanyahu kisses the ring and knows what to kiss and praises the Holy Father, the Godfather, then Arafat can go in and crawl on his knees and kiss the ring of the Holy Father. So what is that telling you? It's telling you that there's a Godfather, and the Pope is the Holy Godfather over all of the earth. Right. Go back and read the Vatican documents that said back in the times of the Roman Empire that Rome rules the world, period. And it always has. And so it will use anybody, well, like the organized crime today, will use anybody to make money. So once you understand how organized crime works and realize that it's a crime that's organized, and we call it government. And so on my website, and you need to remember this too, that on my website, there are other websites out there with my name on it. People are using my name to make themselves money. They're using my name
How unfortunate.
To aggrandize themselves. People think that they're coming to my website. My website is Jordan Maxwell Show, spelled S-H-O-W, JordanMaxwellShow.com. And I have two other websites, but they are all on my Jordan Maxwell Show. So if you go to my JordanMaxwellShow.com, you will see I have a couple of other websites that are mine, but they're only on the Jordan Maxwell Show. And one of them is the JordanMaxwellVideos.com. But that's on my Jordan Maxwell Show, and all you got to do is when you go on my home page, you will see on the right-hand side two new videos I have called Cosmocratus, or Cosmocrats, and Revealing an Ancient Secret. So those are my two new videos. And when you order them, it will go to a website called Jordan Maxwell Videos. Well, that's on my Jordan Maxwell Show, so that's my website, Jordan Maxwell Videos. And then there is what you mentioned before. There is a research society website called the Jordan Maxwell Research Society. And you can click on the banner, that little button that talks about Jordan Maxwell Research Society, and you can join that as a privately run operation, private information. I'm not putting this stuff into the public anymore for free. The whole world uses stuff I put on the web for free, but nobody ever sends me anything. Nobody ever gives me anything.
Or gives you a shout-out in one of their books, like some researchers I know that you helped pretty much put out there, and they don't even give you a mention. I guarantee, Jordan, I will mention you in every single book I write in the future.
Well, I appreciate that, and I thank you for it, and I do the same thing. People that I learn from, I tell my audience about them. Yeah. Because I want people who are very highly intelligent and very well received. I want the audience to know about them. So I even have on my website a Jordan Maxwell Research Society website, and all it is just another website that if you join, when you join it, you are joining a private club, so to speak, where I am downloading uploading all of my research over the years. So in the past 56 years of the work I've been doing, I'm putting out all the documents and all the pictures and white papers and research documents and recommending all the best materials, the best books, the best people to listen to, the best links on the World Wide Web. It's just a general, it's all around research material that I have been doing for many, many years. I put it out there now in a private way. So if you want to make yourself and avail yourself of the really dark secrets of this world, then join my Jordan Maxwell Research Society website. It's very simple. Just click on it and join.
That's right. No, they could send you a one-time contribution that gives them a lifetime access to this research of yours that you've been doing for over 50 years.
It's only a one-time donation to support my website, and you've got it for good. Going to be there, it's a lifetime subscription, only one time, and it's everything I'm doing, period. And like you said at the beginning, it's massive right now, but boy, you haven't seen anything.
Can't wait.
I've got a terabyte more waiting to go up. And I'm still getting new stuff every day.
Yeah, it's updated regularly. I mean, everything from quotes and PDF files to amazing books and research, just so well put together.
And I appreciate and I thank you for that. But yeah, I've been doing this kind of dark research, lifting the rocks and seeing all the roaches and all of the little creatures running away when you pick up the big rock and then you find out what's under the rock. Well, I do the same thing with the world I live in. I pick up the rock that we live on, and look underneath of it. And that reminds me of the word that I use a lot, is the word understand. Understanding means to stand under the subject you are looking at. You don't buy what you see on the surface. Go down below.
That's right.
And look at what's underneath of the subject. Where did it really come from? What do the words really mean? And so then you're looking under the subject. So that's where we get the word understand. You're standing under the subject you're looking at. So if you want to understand the world you live in, then you need to wake up and understand that you don't know what's going on. And I've been doing this for some 56 years. So if you want to hook up with me, then go to Jordan Maxwell Show and join my research society, if you can handle it.
That's right. If like Jack Nicholson said, you can't handle the truth, but if you pay $30, maybe you're willing to handle it.
Yep. And
it's not much, really.
If you can handle it, because I'm giving you all the raw materials, the real stuff, where these words and terms of religions and governments actually, in fact, come from, and what the words mean, and the etymology, and the pictures and diagrams of all the lies and deceptions that we've been, born and raised under. So that's what I do. That's who I am. And when I'm gone, my work will probably die with me, and nobody will know anything about it. So.
Not if guys like me have anything to do about it, Jordan. We guys like me, we really take a liking to your research. I mean, it's opened my eyes. I've used your research, for so many things, for my own personal life, to just unveil the matrix of lies that's before me, before my own life.
I appreciate it, but it's not going to be a very happy life if you start looking too definitively at the world you live in. It's not going to be a very happy life, but as long as you understand that.
Oh, Jordan, I've been sued by my own family. Right? Yep. They try to steal my own children. Right? They yell at my wife, who's a international artist. My own family turned their backs on me because of you know me.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying. I just got to telling you, it's not going to be a very happy life.
Yeah.
But then that's the story of the Bible and the New Testament. Jesus came and we're told that he was the light of the world. Of course, he was God's son, the light of the world.
Yes.
Of course, the Son is the light of the world. And so the idea of the New Testament story of Jesus is the story. And the Bible's called the greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
Why? Is because the story being told in the New Testament is the greatest story ever told.
Just a story.
What are you talking about? You're talking about the sun is light. And when the sun goes down, there's darkness. So there's 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of light. And when the sun comes up, he is our risen Savior. And then when he dies, he goes back into hell, which is under the earth. Well, yeah, the sun does go under the earth, so to speak. And then it comes back the next morning because he said he would return. Well, he does every morning about 5:30. But the bottom line on the New Testament story of Christianity is the war. That's the greatest story ever told, the war between light and darkness, between the truth, and Jesus said, I am the truth and the light. And then you have the devil, which is simply taking the letter D, as in David, take the letter D and put it in front of the word evil, E-V-I-L, and it becomes devil. Yeah. And so it's a symbolic story of the war between light and darkness, between the intellectual, spiritual truth, and the lies of this dark world. So
you said it with
the devil is called the Prince of Darkness. And Jesus is the Prince of Light. He is the light of the world. So the Prince of Darkness, or the devil, which is nothing more than evil with a D. The bottom line is you need to wake up if you really want to understand the world you live in. Back up and realize you've been lied to and deceived by religion, by government, by law, by banks, by insurance companies, by educational colleges. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one.
Yes. Well, absolutely, Jordan. I mean, it's so obvious that the sun is God. I mean, the petals don't bloom on the lotus unless the sunlight from God hits it, right?
That's right.
It has all the flowers. I mean, it's just right there.
And just remember, the sun, that thing that comes up in the morning, is your risen Savior.
Yeah.
And you don't think it's your risen Savior? Well, it does rise. And it is your Savior, because if it don't rise, you're dead in 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Without the sun, it's going to get awful chilly real quick. And if you think the Chicago freezing everything in the dead of winter, no. Wait till there is no sun. And you're going to find out what death and freezing really is. And so, therefore, the sun is your risen Savior. And he does have 12 followers, the 12 months of the year, 12 signs of the zodiac.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful story, but it's all part and parcel of religion, government, theology, banking. The whole human system is a story, and most people have never, ever heard the story. So that's what I've always tried to do, is just try and wake people up to the reality of the world they live in. But I have discovered over the years, I'm almost 80 years old now, I've discovered that most people don't want to hear any of it. Most people can't handle the truth. That's about the name of it. They just can't handle it. They don't want to hear it. They got their own religion, their own church, or their synagogue, or their mosque.
They have a cognitive dissonance.
It's cognitive dissonance.
Like I've heard you say, Jordan, if someone's asleep and you turn on the light, they're mad because you turn on that light. They want to go back to sleep. They don't like how bright the light is.
And they're not happy. It wasn't a joke.
Oh, they're pissed.
If you're sound asleep and somebody turns on a 600-watt bulb next to you when you're sound asleep, that's not considered a joke. Even your best friend is going to catch hell. Nobody, that's not something you do to people, is go in their bedroom when they're sound asleep and turn on a 600-watt bulb. I don't care how close you are. I don't care if you're family. You don't do that to people when they're sleeping.
They're going to want to kick your ass.
And so you're not making friends by doing that. There's nothing funny about it. Well, the same thing is true today, when people are sound asleep in their church and in their synagogues and in their mosque, and they're sound asleep in their government, and they're Democrats and they're Republicans, and they're people sound asleep. They have no idea what they're doing, but they never have in 6,000 years known, and they don't know now. And then you wake them up with the light of truth, and they see that they've been deceived by the prince of darkness, meaning ignorance and stupidity, and now they begin to wake up and find out that to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Now you're awake. Now that you're awake, you can work, get up and find out where you are and what's going on, because before you were sound asleep in your own little room, in your own little cubicle, you were sound asleep. So I'm just doing what I do only for those people who want to know. I realize that 90% of the people on the earth couldn't care less what I'm talking about, and they have no idea what it is. It's not important anyway. But for those handful of people who know there's something wrong and they want to know the truth before they die, well, then join my research society and go to Jordan Maxwell's show and hang out there and listen to all the shows I do, and I'll try and help you little by little to wake up to the world you really live in. That's right. And I thank you for people like you for allowing me to come on and talk about the truth, because believe me,
thank you.
You don't hear a whole lot of truth on the airwaves, television, radio, or any place else.
Oh, it's just like that movie, They Live, you know.
I
don't even need the glasses to see how they have formaldehyde faces, Jordan.
Well, why would Hollywood and certain producers and directors make movies like that?
Exactly.
They're telling you something.
Oh yeah.
And you're not listening. You're not getting it. It's not entertainment. They're telling you something, and that is the people around you, all around you, are there's a story in the Bible about Jesus that said that some young people came to Jesus, and they said, "You are a great teacher, and we want to follow you, but we have to go home first because a family member has died, and there's going to be a funeral, so we have to go home and go to the funeral first, and then we will come back and follow you because you're a great teacher." And the Bible says Jesus said to them, "Let the dead bury their dead. Let the dead bury their dead. You stay here, and you either follow me now or you don't follow me at all. So let the dead bury their dead." The bottom line symbolically was that what the truth and the light of the subject is, if you kind of like hearing things which are true, but you've got your own life, and you've got your wife and your children and your work and your job, and you've got your friends and the football game and everything. So yeah, you kind of like hearing the truth about this or that, but you don't want to get involved in all that stuff, and so you kind of like it a little bit, but you've got your life to live, so you forget about it. Well, that's why the Bible has Jesus saying, "Let the dead bury their dead," because the people who are worrying themselves sick over all the nonsense that's going on in the world, they're already dead. They're deadheads. And
they're not listening to the Grateful Dead, right?
Yeah, they're Grateful Dead.
You just made me have like a kaleidoscope, mind-changing moment. I mean, you're speaking about Jesus right there. He is a metaphor for Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker wanted to do the same thing. He didn't want to go and fight the Empire. He wanted to stay home for a second. You know, he was like hesitant. He wanted to stay with his uncle, and you saw what happened to them. The Empire came around and obliterated him. So if he would have stayed there, he would have been mincemeat. So it was,
that's right.
Yeah.
So, that whole Star Wars thing is nothing more than mythology.
Yes.
And if you understand the mythological stories, which most people don't, people going to the movie watch Star Wars were entertained by the brilliance of the presentation of the movie, but they don't know what it means. They haven't got the faintest idea what any of that means, and it doesn't mean nothing to them. It's just a great movie with a lot of shoot 'em up and UFOs and all that kind of stuff, and it was wonderfully presented. But just remember that the U.S. and the Western world of the white man, I mean, that has become a term now we use, the Caucasian or the white man. The Africans come from Africa, and the Chinese come from China. Well, the white man comes from Europe, north, east, west, and south of Europe. Northern Europe, eastern, southern, and western. And so if you go and look at the home of the Caucasian or the white man, it's in Europe, north, east, west, and south, which take those letters, NEWS, and it becomes news. So anything happens in north, east, west, or south is news. And so when you go back into the history of north, east, west, and southern Europe, you will find that 1,000 years before the Roman Empire ever existed, there was already masses of people living in Europe. Before Rome came in and organized everything, there were already organized societies in Europe during the Grecian Empire. And those people of that time in Europe were called, the people of that time were called Druids. The Druid society was the European society.
The Iron Age.
And so one of the most important, if you were living those thousands of years ago in Europe, you were a Druid. And therefore, the Druids were the most important people. The doctors, the lawyers, the politicians, anybody who was anybody of any importance in Europe was a Druid. Well, one of the most important symbols coming out of that ancient world of Druidism, which in point of fact today, Europe is still Druid. It's still Druid today, and we in America are a Druid society. Most people don't know that because they haven't been told that's what America is. We're Druids. And one of the most important symbols of the ancient Druid establishment was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand, or Mickey Mouse with his magic wand, or the orchestra leaders. Today, in modern music and orchestra leaders, they are conducting the music for the audience with a magic wand. Well, magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. And today we are still, the white man, Caucasian, is still conducting magic all over the world with Hollywood.
Absolutely. Jordan, I realized that we were run by Druids as a child, believe it or not. This was before I even heard about you. I didn't know it, though, but I was being shown it in this DuckTales, these cartoons. Yep. And they went back because Scrooge McDuck had Druids in his family. So he had to go back to Scotland. Again, that's where it all originates from, the Scottish rite. He goes back, and he's trying to take care of his family's property that they have there that's being run by Druids. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So the whole world we live in, the entire world, the entire globe, I don't care if it's a flat globe or a round one, it doesn't matter. The entire human experiment, and that's what I think it is, because to understand who we are today has nothing to do with evolution. A certain part of the idea of evolution is true, but the basic idea that evolution was presented is false. So there is a certain amount of evolution that happens in plants and animals, yes, but it's not the nonsensical stuff of humans come from chimpanzees, no. But the subject is not evolution. If you really want to look at where we come from, then look up a whole different word, not evolution, but intervention. Look up the word intervention, because that is the real truth. Somebody a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Nice pun there.
Somebody intervened in our natural evolution. Somebody came here from somewhere out there in space and saw the indigenous creatures that were here on the earth, the Cro-Magnon man, or the Peking man, or the Neanderthal man, and they saw these creatures, these what we call today hominids. Look up the word hominid, and so somebody came here very smart, very superior to anything on the earth. They saw the ancient hominids millions of years ago, and they intervened in our evolution. They took females and procreated with females and put their DNA in the female hominids and created a different kind of hominid.
Can I ask you
a different kind?
Can I ask you a question, Jordan?
Yeah.
About these hominids. I mean, it reminded me of your what you told the Catholic priest. These sons of God, as have we discussed, did they have any genitalia? I mean, if they're a spirit, did they have any junk hanging around? I mean, to do with our human ladies?
You're right. You're right.
How did they do it?
That is a very important question. Very important. And I think, yes, I think they did. And the reason why is because in Genesis 1:28, the very first chapter of Genesis, it says that, hell, we could go on and talk about this for the next 5 hours. But,
absolutely.
But in the book of Genesis, well, let me go back and preface my comment by saying that in the King James Bible, in English translations of the Bible, it says in Genesis 1:1, it says, God created, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in the Hebrew. It doesn't say that in the old ancient Phoenician language. There is no Hebrew language. There is a Phoenician language. But the Hebrews speak it, so we call it Hebrew. But it's not Hebrew, it's Phoenician.
That's right. And
so in the Phoenician language, which we call Hebrew, the word for God is El, E-L, period. God is spelled E-L, L. And so if you were to read the Genesis 1:1, in the ancient so-called Hebrew language, it would say, in the beginning, El created the heavens and the earth, which is translated into English, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not the word that's used for God. The word in the Phoenician or the Hebrew language, if you go back to the original, it's Elohim. Elohim is not El. Elohim is a different word. And Elohim is a plural. It's a plural to the word El.
Yes.
And so it's like today we have a car, C-A-R. But if you put a hyphen and an S, it becomes cars, more than one. And so in the Hebrew, if El is God, but if you're talking about many gods, then you put an ending, Lohim. So it becomes Elohim, or the gods, more than one.
Absolutely. That's why they have CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, so they could communicate with these gods. And then the church came around and called these gods demons, but really they've been gods. They were the ancient gods. And this reminds me, Jordan, since we're on the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, if there's this Psalm 19:1, and it's on the gravestone of Werner von Braun. Okay, I know you know who that is.
Yeah.
It says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. So that's the first time they spoke of the earth, is firmament. You familiar with that?
Yep, I'm very familiar with it. Yep. But what I was going to say is that
firmament
is that God in the old ancient language of the Hebrew is El, but that's not the word that's used in the Bible. It's Elohim. So the correct translation of the King James should be, in the beginning, the gods, Gods, the gods created the heavens and the earth, because that's what Elohim means. And so, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth. And that would explain why later in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, when the gods are creating Adam and Eve, the scripture said, and the gods said, come, let us make man. And the Christians will say, see, there it is, right there. God is creating man. Because the scripture said, the gods said, come, let us create man. It doesn't say that. Read the rest of the scripture. It says, come, let us, whoever us is, there's more than one, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And so Christians misunderstand that, all of them collectively misunderstand, and they say, well, there is a scripture showing that God has created man.
Right.
Because it says, come, let us make man in our image and after our likeness.
Well, that makes sense, Jordan,
But when you look at the sentence, read it correctly. It's saying the gods, more than one, are going to create something, and they say, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And so the rabbis will tell you that God did not create man. The gods did not create us. God did not create us. We were already here. And so whoever the gods were that said, come, let us, who's us? Well, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
Jordan, that makes sense because, humanity's become very ugly. You see some of these Arabs that are screaming wildly, this is my land! They look hideous, So some of these gods must have been pretty ugly.
That's exactly right, because we're made in their image and likeness. And therefore, as loony and crazy and incredibly stupid as we are, we're made in our Creator's image and likeness.
That's right. And
that's what these gods, some of these gods are very brilliant and handsome and highly intelligent and profoundly wise, while there are others in their midst who are dim-witted, goofy, lunacy and murderous and raping and plundering.
War-loving gods, yes.
Yeah, come let us who's us, come let us make man in our image.
And on top of that,
our likeness,
who was the God that made all of the rest of the gods? The one God that made them. Right? So we all come from the same creator. Even the gods were created by a God. The God.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it's an interesting story about scriptures and Bible and where these words have come from. And you've got the clergy, the church, and most people talk about going to church, but they have no idea in the world where the word church came from and what it means in the original language and the etymology of the word church. You would be ashamed to tell the people you're going to church if you knew what that word really meant. Not what the church tells you it means, but go back and do the research and find out what the word actually meant.
And when you find out what it actually means, you're going to want to take back all your dollars you put into that collection basket.
Take back all your life that you spent in a church when you find out what that word really means. So, anyway, when you look at the word blessing, bless, B-L-E-S-S, bless goes back to a word for blood. Well, that's why if you're going to be blessed, you're going to be bloody.
Wow.
And so you have to give your blood to be blessed. I don't know where to go with all of this. I just try and put a little bit every day on my research website where the words came from, what the words mean, what the ideas of where they developed. And so it's really an interesting world that we live in, and I'm very, very happy that at 77 I won't be here much longer. It's taken me 76 years to figure out a little bit about who we are, where we've come from. And I've been in the company of all kinds of people from all over the world, researchers, writers, astronauts, politicians, criminals. I pretty well have made the rounds, and I've seen it all and heard about all of it. And I don't even know where to go to start to try and help my fellow man wake up.
You've done a lot, Jordan. Jordan, doesn't that astronaut suit look like a wetsuit to you?
Oh, yeah, well, the whole thing does.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when we were talking about the vast oceans of space, I see I don't even see the astronaut suit. I mean, they're training underwater sometimes. I don't see it as a space suit. I see it as a diving suit, a scuba suit.
Well, I know, but that's what we call the vast oceans of space.
Incredible.
Why? Because the Earth is a vessel. It's a living entity. The Earth is living.
Yes.
And so
it's a consciousness. It's an information field. Jordan,
well, look, the Earth produces plants every year and trees.
Yes.
And it breathes. The Earth has to breathe like you do. So it has storms, and you are a biological battery. You're alive because your heart's beating, and your muscles move because of electricity. So you're a biological battery.
Right.
And that's why when you go to court, play a game on court, and when you go to court, you're in hot water. And if you can't be bailed out, that's what you do when your ship is taking on water. You have to get a bail and bail you out. And if you can't get bailed out, they'll take your body, which is a battery, and put you in a cell. That's what you call the battery, is a cell. So they put you in a cell, and they will use your energy in your body on the Maritime Admiralty stock exchanges of the world. And so when you go to jail, the government makes a lot of money off of you through the insurance companies and the 14th Amendment. You need to really wake up and understand how this world really works.
Absolutely.
Not how you thought it worked, but how it actually works.
It's so incredible. You say we're a human battery. I mean, it's right there in front of you. The movies always tell you, right? It reminds me of 1930s Frankenstein. He's putting his hands up in the air after Dr. Frankenstein charged him with an electrical charge. Right? He puts his hands up the air when they open up the roof, the retractable roof, to see the sun. And he's worshiping. He's got his hands in the air like sun worshiping the sun, because it's the life. It gave him the cell that charged his otherwise just a rotten sack of meat. It gave him the energy, the battery.
That's right. And then the whole story of Frankenstein was based on the Illuminati. It's an extraordinary story of the greatest secret society that operates in the world today. We call the Illuminati.
Yes.
Well, back in the 1700s, when the Illuminati, 1770s, when the Illuminati was being founded in Europe, a very powerful, extremely powerful secret society of criminals that were putting together a whole new world order of humans. We were called the Illuminati. And Jacob Frank was a Jewish member of the Illuminati. He was handpicked by Adam Weishaupt, the Grand Master of the Illuminati secret society.
A Jesuit.
And Jacob Frank was a Jew. And so Mary Shelley, she actually wrote the book Frankenstein, she was writing about Jacob Frank joining the Illuminati. And so N was an I and Stein was a stone. So she was talking about Jacob Frank, the Jew, who had turned against Judaism and joined the Illuminati. And Mary Shelley wrote a story about that, and she called it Frankenstein.
Amazing.
And it was Jacob Frank, who was, she said, the I, N-E-N-N-I, and Stein means a stone. So Frankenstein was Jacob Frank, the eye and the stone at the top of the pyramid.
Right. And the Wolfman, the Wolfman goes back to Egyptian folklore as well. They have the half human, half wolf men depicted in the stone carvings. It's amazing. And you've been fortunate enough to visit Egypt. I mean, you can't do it now. You forget about it. They'll cut your head off.
Yeah, I went there 3
tell us
times.
about that.
I spoke in Cairo and spoken all around Egypt in different places in Egypt. 3 times I went there. The first time I was actually blessed in the king's chamber by a Kemite priest.
Wow.
One of the old ancient Kemite priests. He was a wonderful and dear friend of mine. And when I was in the king's chamber, that's when I was a little bit younger and could make it. I would never be able to make it today in the king's chamber because it's very difficult. You have to really want to be there to go through what you have to get inside the pyramid.
You got to drive.
You got to
drive through all the scum. I mean, that scum part of the city where you could get abducted. You know,
well, I know, but I'm talking about the rigors inside the pyramid.
Yes.
Once you get inside the Great Pyramid, and you want to go up to the king's chamber, you want to get into the inside of the pyramid. You better be in good health. You know, if you're an old man, you better stay out and just let the kids do it.
It leads you, literally, it leads you to the tomb, right? I mean, it leads you to
in other words, you have to go inside the pyramid, and then you have to climb inside the pyramid all the way up to what is called the king's chamber. And I did that when I was a little younger, but I would never be able to make it now. I have to have somebody carry me because I could never make it now.
We'll take you in a little golf cart, Jordan. You know?
Up in a golf cart.
Cold water, cold fridge with water. But isn't it incredible how the Giza Plateau pyramids, they align with the Pleiades?
Yeah, I know.
That baffles my mind.
Well, look, we could sit for days and days and days talking about all of the extraordinary, off-the-wall, strange, wonderful things that are going on in the world, all the great mysteries of the planet, and why there are great pyramids sitting on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. 10 miles north of Bimini and the Bahama Banks is a huge pyramid sitting on the ocean floor in the Atlantic, but most people don't know about that, and it's obviously not important in relation to Paris Hilton being laid, and so or the basketball, or the Dodgers, or the Dodgers winning the pennant or something. So
I don't think that's happened.
Most people don't know anything about the pyramid that's sitting on the Atlantic floor, or all of the great temples, the huge, enormous temples that are under the oceans of the world, like off the coast of Okinawa, are huge, incredibly large temples in the ocean, in the Pacific, and off the coast of Cuba are enormous temples in the oceans, off the coast of Australia. It's just an incredible world of lies and deception.
How about China, Jordan? They got incredible pyramids in China that the government there keeps hidden. They put like a whole bunch of shrubbery over it. You know, they don't want anybody to know.
Well, we'll have to end this conversation soon.
You got
There's just so much, and that's what I try and do on my research society, is just put all the ideas out there, and if something catches your interest in something in particular you're interested in, then that will help you wake up. I just show you where to go, what's going on, and where to go if you're interested. If you're not, that's all right. But That's what I do with my research society. So I'm sure we could talk again another time.
We'll schedule another talk, Jordan. It's been wonderful talking to you again, my friend. You stay healthy, and this is the man responsible for anything David Icke's put out. Just kidding. I know you're good. I know you're good friends with David, and I want to talk to you before we go about that because you're responsible for bringing Icke to the United States, right?
Yeah, I brought David here myself in 1992, I think it was. 1992, and that's a whole story. David is a very good friend. David is a wonderful guy, and I realized his importance and what he was trying to do. He had heard about me and had gotten involved with researching the dark side of the world and began to see the same things that I saw a long time ago. And so he began talking in England about the conspiracies and lies and deceptions in government, religion, etc. And so, but he needed help. He was just a young man. And I was in a position at that time to help him. So I brought him to America, and I financed his books and financed his travels and got him on radio and financed him to travel to speak in different countries and etc. And so, yeah, I pretty much, was responsible for David Icke today, being who he is. But David is a good friend. He's a wonderful guy, and I don't have any feelings about having spent time and money and effort to promote him. But in point of fact, the bottom line is, yes, I brought David Icke to America when nobody knew him and made him famous. So, and he's been a very good friend and done a lot of good work for waking people up around the world, which I think I probably saw that in him, and that's why I did what I did.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you did that because you two are some of my favorite authors to read. I mean, you and David Icke, you're the preeminent researchers that come to mind when people start researching this kind of stuff. And you see, you were responsible for launching his career. Amazing. I kind of feel like you helped do that for me too. I'm a young guy and I need help from wise people such as yourself, Jordan, and you've done it. You've been on this show, good friend of the show, and amazing, marvelous research that you've uncovered here on this program. And thank you for being on, my friend, and we'll do it again.
Oh, for sure we can. Anytime you want to, just let me know. And thank you, too.
Okay, you stay healthy, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, good night.
Thank you, Jordan. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was the one and only Jordan Maxwell on the Bruce Montalvo Show. You can find us every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, on TalkStream Live, on Spreaker.com, the Bruce Montalvo Show. I'm also on Mondays, and we'll do it Saturdays. I'm on Saturdays every now and then as long as I have Jordan Maxwell as my co-host. Because as you see, it's unbelievable the stuff that we uncover. The creepy crawlies that are crawling under those rocks, those dark, mysterious stones, they just kick them right over, and then you see them for what they are, It just exposes the darkness. He is the light in that darkness, folks. Ordinary man telling extraordinary truth, our good friend Jordan Maxwell. And this concludes this episode of the Bruce Montalvo Show. You can like us on Facebook, Bruce Montalvo Show. Follow us on Twitter at Bruce Montalvo. And catch you on the flip side. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.
You're listening to MBN Montalvo Broadcasting Network.